Hi, everyone. In this video, I'm going to go over the claim of value, making a case for a stakeholder project. This will be your next major assignment, and it builds off of the claim of fact. And it does so because obviously it's the next cycle in stasis theory, but you can look at it like now that this thing has been proven to exist, to cause something, etc. Now we can look at the value of that fact. And you do not need to use the same topic that you wrote your essay about, but you can. And so when we look at the value of something, we start to see what the effects are of that thing. And then again, who or what is affected. So the way that you're going to do that is examining how a stakeholder is affected by something that is occurring. And before I move forward explaining the assignment overview, I think it's important to define what a stakeholder is. Now, a stakeholder is one who is involved in or affected by a course of action. So generally, we could talk about employees, communities, ecosystems. It's basically anyone or anything that has something at stake. But there's two different kinds of stakeholders. There's external and there's internal stakeholders. External stakeholders are outside of the project. These are people, they don't work inside, they don't really have the total context, they have no decision-making power, but they're still affected by the issue. So you're external stakeholders to the Robert E. Kennedy Library renovation. And you didn't get to make that choice, but it is something that daily might affect you. Okay, so internal stakeholders, those are the insiders, and they work directly within the project. It doesn't mean they have equal footing, right? A manager can make a decision about your job, even though you both work internally in the same institution. It doesn't, again, mean that everyone's equal, but at least everybody has that tacit knowledge. They're all internal. So keep that in mind when you start your investigation. Because for this project, you will examine a STEM topic and the varying perspectives of the stakeholders in this topic. So that's where you begin, is you are going to choose a topic and then start to pull apart all of the people or things who are affected by this topic. Now, the goal is to present the main argument made by one stakeholder that you choose, and you want to present that main argument in order to convince your audience that they should find value in the argument. They should find value in what this stakeholder is experiencing. So the first place to start is obviously choosing a topic. Find a STEM topic and make sure there's some tension within it. Make sure it's something that affects multiple stakeholders, because the more like specific you get with your topic, the better foundation you'll have for researching and looking for one specific stakeholder. Again, go with your passions, but find something that has enough information to develop your project. When you do find something, make sure you look at like the controversies and those points of contention, because they will help you shape, an idea of like what the case is, what's happening, and also narrow down who is specifically affected. After you look at the topic and you find, that there are stakeholders involved, you then want to pick and, you want to choose one of them. So let's say your topic is you're interested in oil pipelines in the United States, and you look into that and you find interest in the Dakota Access Pipeline, which is also known as the DAPL. This is something that's circa 2015. It's a little dated, but it's still a thing. And you start to look into it and you make a list of all the stakeholders involved in this issue. And so possible stakeholders here would be something, would be Energy Transfer Partners. That is the corporate owner of the pipeline. There are the Standing Rock Sioux. That's the Native American tribe who lives on the land the pipeline travels through. Greenpeace is another stakeholder. They are an activist group protesting expansion of fossil fuel use. There's Wells Fargo. They're the bank financing the pipeline. And then there's the environment, the actual ecosystem the pipeline runs through. Now go with what interests you. You know, if you want to look into a specific stakeholder because you have a passion about that stakeholder, go for it. But again, remember, you're showing an ethical display of data. You're not cherry picking to prove something that might be a specific agenda for you. So yes, you have opinions, and you might value what is happening to the stakeholder. But again, be fair, be ethical. And you can't choose this DAPL for the assignment. And then you choose one that's really interesting to you, and you might be really passionate about the environment. So let's say you want to look into how the ecosystem is actually affected by this pipeline. So after you choose your stakeholder, you then research and make sure there's enough information about this stakeholder in order to put everything together for your project. Look at the way that they are speaking about, you know, the issue. Collect evidence that is from, you know, scholarly and popular sources. Look for interviews, you know, podcasts, TED Talks. Find the actual voices, find direct quotations. For the environment, that would be something where you'd have to collect the voices of scientists and other individuals or institutions who would be looking into the environmental impact. As let's say you chose the Native American tribe, well, you could look at interviews with them, and you could look at research that's actually done to show how that community is impacted by this thing. Okay, after you do your research, you want to make sure you can find 5 sources that help you construct the case for your stakeholder. And then you get all your information together and you decide how to organize it. And that's your next step. You know, you have a outline that's provided for you for this assignment. It's in the same module. So you will know what goes into each section, but when I say argue, you know, or organize your information, it's that you want to pull apart what you've researched and make sure that that goes into the right section based on the outline. Present the arguments, you know, and really think about why those arguments matter, like based on their values. So choose the most impactful information, but again, show an ethical display of data. After you organize your information, then you're going to write your case. You'll use the outline provided, but what your goal is to organize information that shows the background of the situation. Then you will move into the next section, which explains your stakeholders' perspective. So here's what's happening, and here is how it is discussed by actual people, by scientists, etc. And then you will have a moment where you argue why people should care about this issue. Again, claims of value are very difficult to, in a sense, get everybody on board because not everybody cares about the same thing. Not everybody finds value in what happens to the environment or to banks, you know. So you're not going to get everybody on and saying, yes, I understand. Woo, I get it. And I care now too. However, the beauty of argument is still to educate and to still show people, even if you don't value it, you should understand that somebody else is affected in this way, or the environment is affected in this way. And at least you're educating people. But based on your own use of rhetoric, you will then be able to say, hey, because the environment is being, you know, destroyed, we should care because of these reasons. So again, you're just reshaping this and actually using your own voice to analyze what's happening to the stakeholder. Um, and then you are going to conclude by stating what the takeaways are of this, what's at stake. You're not going to advocate, though. You don't want to tell people what they can do to help the stakeholder. It's just essentially holding a mirror up to the issue. This is happening. It's a fact. Okay, so let's look at this. Then let's look at who's affected by this thing. All right, this one person or entity is affected. Here's how they are affected. Here's why it matters. And here is what you should take away from that. That's the goal of this assignment. So again, as you do your research, as you move through any of this, please feel free to reach out to me and ask me any questions you might have, because I know there's a lot of steps to this, but thank you for all of your hard work.